Good afternoon, everyone. I am Emily Bolt, DRI's Marketing Director, and I will be your moderator for today's session, The Future of CloudSuite Industrial, presented by Infor. Before I introduce our presenter today, I do want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. All of our attendees are muted as you enter the webinar. Today's presentation, we expect to be about 30 minutes, and we will open the floor for a live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you'd like to ask a question, please do so by typing and submitting your question on the question tab of your webinar toolbar. You can submit a question at any time throughout the webinar. And if we don't have time to respond to your question at the end of the session, we will follow up with you directly via email after today's presentation. We'll also be recording this webinar, and that recording will be emailed to all of our registrants following the live presentation. We expect that to be out later this afternoon. Before we begin, I do want to make everyone attending aware of our next webinar. That session is next Tuesday, August 15th, and we'll be presenting a live demonstration of CloudSuite Industrial version 10. This is a rescheduled session from last week. So if you were originally registered for last week's session, we did have to reschedule, and you do have to re-register for the session next Tuesday. You can do that on decision.com/events. So this session is for anybody who's running CSI or Sightline. If you're on an older version, this is your chance to catch up on the latest features and functionality that are only available on version 10. But if you're already running version 10, excuse me, this is a great chance to see some of the latest enhancements and features you may be underutilizing. As always, that session will be recorded and forwarded to everyone who registers. So even if you can't join us live next Tuesday, be sure to register and you'll get the recording of that session. Again, you can do that on decision.com/events. With that, I am happy to introduce our presenter today. Today, we're joined by Infor Product Director, Marin Haning. Marin will be sharing the CloudSuite Industrial Roadmap, discussing recent accomplishments with CloudSuite Industrial, the new release process, and sharing an overview of the enhancements to come in October and April. With that, I think, Marin, we're all really excited to see what's in store for CloudSuite Industrial, so I'll let you take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Emily. Can you hear me okay before I get started?
You sound great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me today to present. I do have a lot of content to get through and just get us started here. So before I do get started, I did want to, kind of go through our typical disclaimer. A lot of you have probably heard this before if you join us on our enablement calls or any other presentation that we've done. But because we are talking about roadmap items, I just want to reiterate that these may change. This is our best projection, so make no mistake. This is definitely what we're tracking towards. However, they could change, in terms of timing, scope, etc. So do keep that in mind. This is not a commitment, but kind of our best planning, best plan to date for these items. And before then, I go really into the deliveries for the upcoming releases. I did want to take a minute to review the update to the release process. So this may be new information for some of you, hopefully those on version 10, especially multi-tenant. This is not new, but in the event that it is, you should get enough information just in these next couple slides. Really, the reason that we made a change to how we were releasing was based 100% on feedback. So, especially in multi-tenant, but even just really from going into a monthly cycle of new releases, new fixes, we did start to hear back that this was a lot of overhead for all size customers. So SMB for sure, but really across all of Infor's product lines. And so we did take a hard look. We have a number of redesigning initiatives in place to ensure that our releases are more manageable for our customer base. And one of the ways in which we wanted to do this is redesigning the monthly release. So we are now going to a, hopefully you guys can't, let me just hide this box here real quick. I don't know if you guys can see it, but to see my full screen here, we are now going to a 2 time a year release, so a biannual release, where we will have the feature stacked to be delivered in the months of April and October. And in between those months, we're calling that a service release. So if April and October are considered a feature release, they will be included in April and October will be feature delivery, and then also bug fixes. In between the months of April and October, we will have bug fixes still being released monthly, and we're calling that a service release. So if you look across the top of the screen, it really helps illustrate that. And then please note that, we do sometimes come across issues in the month that require us to get out a secondary fix. We used to call it hot fix, but now, as you know, through KB type communications, it is called a supplementary update. So we do recognize that those may still be required, and so we're still accounting for that across, anytime as needed. Obviously, trying to keep those down to an absolute minimum, or hopefully not at all, but that we still have built that into the process. And then just more definition around the service release being the issue resolution, any security updates, and obviously statutory and regulatory requirements sometimes have date sensitive requirements that we have to get out that don't allow us to work within the April and October windows. So we do account for that. And then just to share, sorry, just to share some of the key benefits. Really, what we're looking to get out of this is, and this is for you, so what we're hoping that you will get out of it is to go back to more of a model where you don't have so much overhead every month. You don't, we're still enhancing our documentation to provide as much information about what is expected to come, what files are being changed, different areas of the code and different areas of the system that are being impacted or potentially impacted. But what's more is we're trying to take that down to an absolute minimum, as much of the year as possible, and really concentrating a lot of that additional effort on the 2 months of April and October. And so, the likelihood then that it will impact businesses goes down, et cetera. It also allows our customers, or your customers really, to take information about the changes as early as possible. And so the way that we're doing this is we will be leveraging, you'll see us leverage the release toggles a bit more, which allow us to deliver a feature behind a toggle, and then that will go out in April or October timeframe, and then you can turn it on in non-prod, test it out, play around with it, understand, any business processes that need to be adjusted or accounted for. And then when you're ready before the next release, you could move it into, or turn it on into prod. So we are moving to that model, and that will really help ensure that additional amount of time to receive the updates. And again, just really reducing that monthly impact. And then, of course, just this isn't just Sightline. So although Sightline and CSI have the need, we do hear from our customers, especially customers that don't have a large IT staff, et cetera, et cetera. We do hear this often. However, it's not just Sightline. This is across all Infor products. And so it's standardizing our multi-tenant release calendar, and all of our tenants and all of our products will be on this new release. And because our version 10 on-prem build is the same as the multi-tenant build, it would also impact on-prem the exact same. So now moving more into kind of the roadmap conversation, I did want to put some information out there about kind of our growth and numbers over the last couple years. I think it's been a little bit since we had this presentation to you folks. So I did go ahead and pull some updated numbers. Total cloud customers, so version 10, multi-tenant cloud customers is over 560, about 180 of those, and of course that fluctuates at any given time, but most recently we had about 180 projects in flight and over 370 customer locations live, and those numbers then translate into over 55,000 users, unique users in the cloud, which is fantastic. And we're really proud of those numbers. And of those users, then 59 are referenceable cloud customers. Recent accomplishments, and these are really kind of year to date. If you went to Sun or you've heard any of our enablement sessions or any of my presentations recently, you'll know that there are a few key themes that we've really been honed in on. And this started last year in 2022 and has really been our primary focus for 2023. So 2023, we executed at the beginning of the year a number of enhancements to our estimates form. So we placed copy orders and estimates button on the estimates line form. We added buttons to the estimate worksheet. We had the estimation worksheet, a number of improvements for the interface and how that interacts with the grids. And you have hopefully been noticing that and playing around with that over the last few months or so. And then we also, another big theme for us has been quality, our quality enhancements. And this is an area we're very proud of and is a differentiator for Sightline, CSI. Our quality module, was something that what it allowed us and helped us be a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader. But this really, this investment that we've made over the last year and are going to continue to make over the next year to really enhance the functionality for quality, help take us above and beyond a number of other products that have quality, and this allows us a much more detailed and global kind of feature and functionality, which allows users across different aspects of the system that still have to see and interact with the quality, module or data to do that without just being quality managers and quality personnel. So what we've seen for quality is we've added accumulated values from job operations on IP job inspect and disposition form. We added test min-max defaults. We merged the QC customer and QC vendor onto the main CSI forms. We added MRR number to tags and vendor certification tracking, and we're really working to add to that, and I'll get to some of those additional enhancements that are coming as well. We took a large look at where there's opportunity in this solution to reduce the number of clicks. So you'll see this come out. We're doing a really big UI overhaul, and I'll talk about some of that in the upcoming slides. But there was some easy wins too. So one of the first things we recognized were these pop-up boxes that required a user to hit OK. When something was run or a workflow was generated, and instead of requiring the user to hit OK, it's just a pop-up message that then disappears. And so there's actually hundreds, like 400 or so opportunities throughout the system to reduce clicks. And so that was an easy win. We also have other areas that we're consolidating processes and moving buttons around or making things more intuitive, which also will reduce clicks. But these pop-up messages were something that was a quick win, and there was a lot of opportunity to gain those wins that we have implemented across the solution. We also did a number of updates to our role-based homepages, and this is expanding with the new Infor OS portal. we're moving to these new persona pages. So we do have the home pages, and we had updated those over the last year. And then now the next generation of that is new persona pages. So although we've seen some updates in that area, we will continue to see that as well. And then we also had our WMS integration enhancements. So over the last year or so, we had a number of how to process non-nettable stock, QC inspection flag, and then in January we had a large enhancement for the integration, which allowed the interface to handle job orders. And just a note on this, the WMS integration is not necessarily a certified integration with CSI, but we do know a lot of customers have it, and even though it's a custom integration, so there has been a need to do some further enhancements to build that out. So that is really the driver behind that. And then the new portal, as I mentioned. So InfoOS put out the new portal, and there was a number of opportunity to adopt the functionality from the new portal and bring that into kind of our new UI updates that we're doing. So you'll see the in context widgets that will allow, it's a smart panel really that allows the OS portal widgets to appear on the page with Sightline, and then you can move those around, and actually being that it's in context, they will complement each other. So, if you're working in customer orders, then you can have a number of widgets that complement that. And we're working on how can we build that integration or that smart kind of tooling out even more. And you'll see more of that coming as well. And as we move to the October, April release cycle, our roadmap is really going to be focused on the buckets of October and April. So in today's presentation, I do have some of our October release items, and then I'll also share with you some of the areas that we're focused on for April and beyond. Because this is such a widespread kind of uncovering effort at Infor, you will also get a lot more formal communications in the next couple months about what is expected to come out through October, a lot of detailed training, enablement, and very additional specifics on each of the functions. So as you see on this slide, I did highlight the primary ones. We might see a few more added into the October release. Similar when we look at the April here in just a couple slides, highlighted some main ones, but we may see some additional ones. So in relation to UI UX, I mentioned some of the areas that we covered already with the estimates enhancements, but we're also working to add, and you may have seen some of this, the transaction number on the tab bar. So if you have multiple tabs open, and I have an example of this in an upcoming slide, but if you have multiple tabs open and you're in customer orders and estimates and multiple tabs across any of these forms, it's really difficult to know which tab belongs to which record. And so we did find a way to make that a little bit more streamlined and intuitive to the user just by naming it with the first or second initial, first initial of each word of the form, and then a dash followed by the record number. So for customer orders, it's CO, estimates, E, estimate lines, EL, etc. And so we have renamed those. I think you've seen a number of them, a couple of them release, and so we have more of those coming for October. We also have a progress bar that's now available on a number that will be available on a number of forms. And this is something that as we build out the UI and we update our different forms, then you will start to see this progress bar appear on more and more forms that have a need for gates, right? Like stage gates. And the first one that we'll see in October is the estimate form. So the next bullet point there, we have a brand new estimate UI that we are going to be releasing for October. And so we took the estimate process, the estimate forms, consolidated the processes and a number and the functionality across different forms, and collated that to make it again much more intuitive. We leveraged new functionality for the user experience. So some of this came from our teams in the design team at Infor, previously called Hook and Loop. But we got guidance from them. We worked with a number of partners and users and solution consultants, and really reimagined how this functionality could look, and without losing any of the robust and really best in class features. We wanted to reimagine those features and how can they be built out on a page that is much more intuitive, reduces the clicks, uses real estate better. And you'll see a lot of that coming in October with the estimate form, and then we'll be taking those best practices across the system. So after estimates, then we'll move to other forms. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but we do have a list of the other forms that we'll be tackling. And then we'll be working across the transaction forms, master forms, workbenches over the course of the next years, and making sure that we are updating the experience to be best in class. And then that also takes us to these new customer service hub improvements. So these are actually the home pages. We are looking at potentially renaming them just to avoid confusion with some of the updates that InfoOS is doing with their home pages. So we may have found a way that we don't have to rename them to hub pages, but right now that is the term we're using. And the first one that will be is delivering in October is customer service. And I do have a quick little example of that. We also have a number of updates for that quality module, which I mentioned. So we'll continue to see rollouts for that, vendor email notification of expired certifications, qualitative vendor performance, pass, fail, test totals. Um, we also will have an update for multi-plant. So I'm a number of you have been familiar with the multi-year project to build in functionality that allows for multiple plants to be under a single site and roll up to the site. So this is a multiple phase project. Phase 2, for the ability to handle bill of material by plant, will be restricted for October, but it is coming in October, and it for customers to be able to touch that functionality, they would need to be part of our beta program. But if that's something that you're interested in, you can speak to myself and we can talk a little bit more about that. But it is something that we're building out, and it's a multi-phase project. Phase 2 is coming in October. There's also a parameter to control serial number auto expand, transfer orders, accounting updates, AP quick payment application, foreign currency open payments. For localization, we had e-invoicing for Japan and e-business document preservation for Japan. And then we also had the Mexico VAT transfer utility to consider tax system 2. Sorry, these are coming in October. And then for tech, we have the service mobile sync performance. We wanted to prevent accidental wide opening processing. So our tech teams built some functionality behind the scenes for that. We also wanted to be able to um, limit the Excel reports from the Excel plugin to be visible, to basically to use the same site security as the user. So by site group, and then we continue with our code out project. And in July, we released the rolling uplift downtime email notification. So this is also something that we will be reintroducing in October, just to ensure that everyone is enabled to receive notifications for rolling downtime. So we're working towards rolling downtime. I can share more information about that in some follow-up details if that's something that you're new to. But with rolling downtime, we wanted to have the appropriate notifications in place. And so we had built out additional functionality for that. And then in the next couple of slides, I just have some examples to show you for some of the features I mentioned. So the examples I have are around the vendor email notification of expired certifications, a vendor scorecard, toast messages, the progress bar that I mentioned. The right-click menu is actually included in um, one of these other examples, including the new estimates UI, and then the new customer service hub page, and then finally, I will hit on the multi-plan. So the example we see here in the top right is an example of the toast slash pop-up message. So again, there was multiple opportunity. I think I see here over 600 click reductions actually to reduce clicks throughout the system. And it was just simply through a pop-up message. And so we really did leverage this as one of our first big low-hanging fruit, but big projects, um, just to provide that better experience to the user. So as you see here, we did implement it on 20 reports or utilities, or at least when we're completed with the project. We've identified those 20 reports and utilities, and so when the project is finally completed, those will all be handled. But this has been kind of a multi-phase project with it completing, I think, by next April, and more of that rolling out in October. And then our QCS vendor notification. So this will allow you to to set up in the system automated notifications to go out to vendors when certificates expire. So you'll put in the date, you can actually draft the template of what you want the message to say and select, a time interval, maybe 30 days before expiration, or even if there's a reason to send it after expiration. Whatever the case may be, whatever makes sense for you, you'll have full control over that. And you will also have the ability to send it in a variety of languages as well. So, this will help our quality teams and admin teams significantly, just reducing that manual effort of having to go in, look at a spreadsheet, build your own spreadsheets. We now have the tracking built into the system, and then we have the automation built in behind it. The progress bar, so again, this is, really around that UI UX improvement, and will allow you to see at what point in any particular process you are at, your teams are at in relation to a gate. So it allows you to track your status. This is the estimates example here, where you see the opportunity, estimate, order, shipped, invoiced, and then the dots on the screen will have it'll actually be highlighted, if you can see there, at when the gate is at a certain point. And so this really helps track the life cycle of a particular process. It reduces the amount of back and forth you have to do in the system to check different data points. And, it's just a really quick graphical representation of any particular process. So we felt that this is something we've been wanting to put in the solution for a long time, and really took this new UI, or the new building of the new forms, the new generation, to include it. So looking forward to getting that out. And then on the screen here, you'll see the existing customer service homepage. What we're looking to do is improve that experience. So as I mentioned, we might be renaming it to Hub Page, but we're trying to get around that so that we don't have to rename it. But really, the idea is to look at the new interface that you see on the screen, We are very careful not to lose any of the functionality, but we did want to make the graphical representations of the different KPIs much more visible, intuitive. We reimagined some of the grids, reduce scrolling. There's a lot of opportunity throughout the system that you'll start to see in reducing the scrolling left to right. And using these mini grids. Also, the menu is a lot different. So the in-context widgets or these workspaces from Infor OS is what I had mentioned on a prior slide. And you'll see that on the right-hand side of our new hub page. And so again, the idea is to make this complementary. So here's the customer service homepage widgets from Infor OS, and then we have our customer service hub page. And so, we really want to start ensuring that this functionality that's provided here can work in conjunction with and complement. So extend, not be redundant, right? But extend out the functionality and and can be used in conjunction with our application. And so that's a big part of kind of reimagining this. Um, and this was a really powerful page because everything is at the user's fingertips. But how can we just enhance it, make it better? Use different dashboards, use different icons. You'll see iconology is another area of our new UI UX that we are enhancing, and but also build out something that is a better experience and not limiting any of the existing functionality. And this is the new estimate UI. So you'll see the stage gate, or I'm sorry, the progress bar at the top of the page here. The new menu or new grid is now expandable. So we are trying to do more with less in that we had a lot of white space to work with. And so we wanted to be able to extend and collapse functionality when it was being used or extend it when it's being used, collapse it when it wasn't being used, have it be contextual. And so when you click on something, the actual information will align with what you'll be able to dial into what you're looking for and what you click on. And so we are taking this type of approach now across multiple all of the forms in the system. But the for October, you'll see it estimate lines, and estimate quick entry forms into a single dynamic form. So as I mentioned, we're consolidating a number of our existing classic forms and creating this new generation of forms so that um, obviously that will reduce clicks, that will make the processes more streamlined. And so we're really excited to get this out the door and, get users on it and experiencing the new look and feel. And so, we'll be also working with you to get your feedback on that as well. And then if you look at our toolbars, if you're ever in the solution, you'll see that we actually had stacked 3 or 4 different toolbars. So we had the the Windows toolbar, we had the application, we had um, the Infor OS, toolbar, and then Mongoose had a toolbar. We had just a lot of different toolbars. So we were looking for ways to consolidate that and take it from 3 bars to one combined toolbar, because obviously, um, the like a web, your browser, we can't do anything with that particular toolbar, but the ones that we had access to, we wanted to merge them together and allow for the menu list and form list to be used in a vertical drop down. And then, of course, just really this opens up a lot of real estate. So if we don't have all these toolbars taking up, a third of the page, that does open up for more real estate. So using that real estate to bring that new user interface for some of the prior examples I showed. And then multi-plant phase 2. Again, this is bill of material by plant, and this will allow us or users to define a plant under a site. So you'll now be able to define a plant, which designates the warehouse for which is the manufacturing warehouse of the plant. And the user, as the user navigates between the forms related to different bill of materials, the system's behavior is to show the data for the user's current plant. So you do have these different bill of materials as needed. And then the warehouses, work centers, resource groups, and resources are viewed then by the plant. And this allows the ability to filter on the current plant, a different plant, or all plants. And users can change their sessions, current plant, or current warehouse using the new change plant or warehouse form. So there's an example of that form there. And then looking forward now, well, we're already looking forward to October, but that's pretty much baked in. After we come out of October, we have April right around the corner. So in looking at April, as you can imagine, it's going to be very heavy with the UI UX stuff. So we will also we have a few QCS updates that we're continuing to expand on. These are kind of the last big bulk of the QCS items. They include the control plan, FMEA report, flow diagram, SRO to MRR. And then in relation to the user interface updates, as I mentioned, that progress bar is going to go on to other forms now. So you'll continue to see that throughout the system, throughout the updates that we release. We're also working on how to build in the report or financial report writer. So similar to what we had in version 9, we want to bring that into version 10. We also have new flow charts that we're working on, and then just, reduce form interaction. So as I mentioned, just consolidating forms and finding opportunity there for consolidation. And as we look forward, new forms, we have kind of in 3 different categories. So transaction forms, master forms, and workbenches. And for transaction forms, our next big targets are customer orders and RMA. And because this is April and it's really just kind of 6 months in between October and April, I don't want to put too much more out there, but just know that that's really how we're tackling it in these 3 buckets of forms and some of the key ones that we're looking at next. Our customer orders RMA. Obviously, we're going to try to get as much velocity across all 3 of those areas as possible, and more to come on that as we kind of are further along. Core, we have updates to our Poland and France localizations, advanced picking and floor stock replenishment. We have a new updates for that. It's actually going to be kind of wave picking functionality, if you want to think of it that way. Self-service refresh automation, and then multi-plant phase 3 will also be for April, which is how to handle MRP. And then just a couple quick things. I know we're kind of getting to the bottom of the hour, but the code out project does continue. We do see it ebb and flow, just kind of as other projects take priority, or if we want to get additional velocity in any particular areas, this may ebb and flow. But target areas that we're looking at, continue to look at for 2023, is this validators and list sources. And then future target areas will go from list sources to grid tree views, form events, reports and data views, background tasks, other third-party code triggers, and then factory track. And this is all found, information on this can be found under KB 2146483 as listed here. And then I know the roadmap, we try to show all the exciting tools, functionality, features that you touch and that you feel on a day-to-day basis. But there's also a lot of effort that goes into kind of some of the behind the scenes experiences or technology, kind of functional day-to-day stuff, and or big projects that we're working on to enhance your experience. So I wanted to list that here just to give us a little bit more context behind some of the other things that the roadmap does include at any given moment. Rolling uplifts, so we're always working towards zero downtime. We don't have a target date for that, but it is something that as a cloud maturity effort and as a cloud company is, really high on our target, and that's across all of our Inforce products. So as a solution, we do have certain plans that we have built out, and our development teams do work continuously on achieving those different milestones. Rolling uplifts is really the first one. So currently, where we take the farm down for 4 to 5 hours doing our uplifts, with an rolling uplift, the tenant would only be down, or your tenant is only down while your particular tenant is being updated. So you're not down throughout the entire maintenance window when they're touching all of the tenants. You're only impacted when your particular tenant is being updated. And so this is something we're working towards. We had rolled it out, and I think for August, we're not doing the rolling downtime, but we will bring that back as something that we are continue to work on and improve. Also automation. So this is automation is just software. Like I mean, it's really key to what we are constantly finding improvements for operations, not only for you, how to improve your operations, but how do we improve our operations, and this covers a lot of different areas within the solution. I mentioned the rolling uplifts, zero downtime bug fixing. So now we can apply some of our patches can be applied without taking down all of the farms or even your tenants. So we can apply some bugs in a zero downtime opportunity. We can spin up new and additional servers. Um, through automation. And so, this is not things that you will see or feel directly, but all of this does impact our ability to serve you better. And so we're constantly building that out. And then guardrails are things that we're doing really to help internal systems from experiencing extended, just performance issues, right? So making sure that we have guardrails on the farms, making sure we have guardrails on different reports being generated. Do we have to break those up so that they can run easier on the system? And, just exploring ways that we're constantly looking for improvements there or finding ways to improve. So you do see that. You see us working on those types of things. The release process. So, of course, I mentioned some of that, but also, these toggle switches. So not only are we looking to do a toggle switch on a new feature that we already can do, but what if we could toggle on or toggle off an entire release? So you had like 30 days time or 6 months time, whatever we decide it is, to take a release. So what, the possibility of what ifs. So really kind of exploring how or if that's able to be achieved and what that looks like. And then, data organization and retrieval. So is this archiving, a number of different areas this touches. So just really looking at, I wanted to put this out there to show that we do have a lot of big initiatives at any given time, and also big, some new big feature functions that we're working on. And lastly, I wanted to leave you with some of the updates for our portal. So the new InfoOS portal um, has been released, and for Sightline CloudSuite Industrial is certified with the new portal as of will be with October. And just some new elements to this, and I don't want to beat this too much because I do recognize that you have been enabled, I think through the InfoOS team directly, but just a number of improvements. So the navigation, the workspaces, which were also the home pages. So I think the terminology is changing here a little bit, which allows us to keep home pages in Sightline, which is great. And they're calling those widgets workspaces and making them more configurable, a way, kind of a single point of entry to all things Infor. So across all of your applications, you start here as a persona. You would have access to each of the different data points that you need to see at any given moment, and then also be able to interact with the applications through the widgets. Expanded contextual capabilities, which I mentioned, and then these this smart panels, so the in context widgets that also come on to the different applications and are in context to the information that you're looking at and interacting with. Then the InfoOS widgets would update, to collaborate with, or to be compatible with that, complement that. So that is what I had. Thank you all again. I hope this was extremely helpful. I'm sure we have questions, so I wanted to leave, the next 15 minutes for Q&A. Emily, I can pass it back to you because
Yep.
I don't have the thing
No, I'll
open
go
to
ahead.
see.
I'll go ahead and facilitate the questions for
Okay,
you.
perfect.
Um, just before we do have a couple of questions, but before we jump into those, just a reminder that if you have a question on your GoToWebinar toolbar, there's a little tab that says questions. You can drop that down and type and submit your questions into that tab of the webinar toolbar. So I'll go ahead and jump in with our first question. Um, the first question is from Chris, who says, are there any features such as role-based home pages that
Mhm.
are not available to on-prem users?
Okay, that is a good question, and I didn't call it out, and for that I apologize, because I did kind of think that as I was going through it. So the new Infor OS portal features would not be available for on-prem customers unless they purchase the Infor OS multi-tenant, which then would be a hybrid um, configuration. With just core Sightline on-prem, anything that comes from InfoOS, including those workspaces and the widgets, are not available. Yes.
Okay. All right, we have another question. Combined toolbar looks, well, it's a comment and a question.
Hmm.
Combined toolbar looks like more clicks. Is this an optional feature that can be turned on and off?
Oh, interesting. Let me look at that. We were exploring, I think we're releasing in October, 4th March, but let me just double check on that, because obviously the idea is that we're reducing clicks, but I can see, if you're thinking like additional menus and things like that, add clicks, and you want the ability to turn on or off. We had that discussion, and let me double check where we
Yeah.
landed on that, and see what the answer with that
Yeah,
is.
not a problem.
Yeah,
We'll coordinate with Marin and we'll get back to you,
yeah,
Peter, on that.
yeah.
Um, so we'll follow up with you, Peter, via email. We have one more question. Again, if anybody else has questions, you can type and submit it into the toolbar under the questions tab. As of right now, this is our last question. When will Infor OS portal be pushed to everyone? I
Hmm.
know we can activate and test it now, but when will it be quote unquote forced?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I haven't heard. I'll be completely honest. I don't have a date. So
Okay,
that will come from the InfoOS team. I haven't heard it. Yeah, I don't know, but I
okay.
recognize why it's being asked. And I do urge you all to adopt it because, you know, um, because I think they are going to probably deprecate and mingle eventually at some point too. Um, so definitely I don't have a date for any of that, but, just with all the work that they've been putting out with the new portal, and, just the better look and feel of it, I really
Mhm.
urge you to adopt it as
Yeah,
soon as possible because, it's a better experience overall. Yeah.
and for anyone who would like to see a little bit more detail on that experience of the new N4OS portal, we will be demonstrating that in our
Oh,
session
cool.
on Tuesday. So
Perfect.
be sure that you register on decision.com/events for the session on Tuesday so you can see a little bit more detail of what that entails. So we did have a few more questions come
Okay.
through, so we'll move on. Is Flex Layout going to be replaced with anything that is easier to use?
Mm. I'll have to get back to you on
Yeah,
that.
we'll follow up.
Yeah.
We'll follow up on that one. Um, are there any changes for shipping for orders?
Oh, um, we're reviewing that process. Yes.
Okay,
Nothing in the immediate roadmap, but definitely something that we continue to map out and work on internally. So,
okay,
for in the future, I can say yes, but I don't have a time frame or what that looks like yet. So,
understood. We do have one more question. Again, if anybody else has questions, get them in now because as of right now, this is our last question. Um, our users like the classic forms. What is the
mm,
state of web forms being pushed?
so web forms, we're not going to push. So really think of it that this is skipping over web forms. So we're doing new generation of forms. The first of which is coming in October, and they will eventually replace classic forms. We are also going to ensure that before we take any action, a we have the majority of the solution covered with the new generation of forms. B, we have a really strong adoption and we'll work with you and DRI and a lot we have a plan in place to ensure that adoption happens. And C or three, um, all of that functionality is there, right? We don't want any missed functionality. This is to be an improved experience, but not, if everything's hidden and you just because it looks good, I guess, if just because it has a great user interface, if it's not intuitive and you can't do everything the way you've always done it, then it's not a better experience. And so we want to hit both of those. And so we'll be working with customers, partners to ensure that adoption happens and that we're getting feedback um, that this new generation is a better experience. But web forms is really kind of not something like, how do I want to say this? We're skipping over, we're not enhancing web forms. That's not what we're doing here. Those were released. They, may not have been to the best of their abilities. And so we are doing it different and better this time. And so eventually, we will be probably doing away with both web forms and
Okay.
classic forms with the new generation. Yep.
We did have a few more questions trickle in, so we'll
hmm
keep following up with those until the top of the hour.
hmm
The next question is, can we easily disable access to web forms?
If we're talking about the true web dot forms, can you disable access? So, like, I mean, it's optional if you want to use those or the classic version of. I don't think I understand the question, Emily. Like maybe that's a one that we can follow. I
Yeah,
can
we
get
can
more
follow up with you,
information. Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah.
The next question is the click once client going away? If so, when?
So it did go away for our multi-tenant users, and I think that the answer is yes. We are exploring removing it for all users. We don't have a time frame yet, though.
Okay. One more question so far in the queue. Again, you can type and submit your questions on the webinar toolbar under the questions tab. The next question says, will document management become more user-friendly and how
Yes.
we can
Mm.
upload and attach documents?
Yes. Yes. We do have a number of IDM enhancements in the queue, and I don't know if they'll make it into April. I didn't obviously include them on these slides, but I can just say, the short answer is yes. I don't have timing, but yes, we are looking at how to enhance
Excellent.
IDM as it works with CSI.
All
Hmm.
right. Well, that appears to be the last of our questions for today, so we'll
Okay.
go ahead and wrap it up. As a reminder to everyone in today's session, I highly encourage you to register for the upcoming CloudSuite Industrial Version 10 demo. That is next Tuesday. You can register on decision.com/events. Thank you so much to Marin. Thank you to everyone who attended today. We hope you have a great afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, everybody.